West Coast vs Hawthorn, Friday night forecast. Well, hasn't the complexion of this game changed in the past 7 days? The Eagles, fresh from a stirring win over the Giants, have a chance to storm into a double chance. For the Hawks, a win is needed to keep them not just on top, but in the top 4. The stakes are extreme. There's no hyperbole built into this statement. Tonight's game looms as critical to shaping the finals series for the top 4, and potentially the top 8. The Eagles were limping towards the line 2 weeks ago. Since then, they've trashed Fremantle in a half of football, and beaten the Giants on their home deck. Admittedly, the latter result was generated by 3 players, Luke Shuey, Matt Prydes and the Sweet Prince himself, Nick Naitanui. But a win against a top 8 opponent is a win against a top 8 opponent. Sorry, I have to post this sucker again. It means 16 wins is in play for the Eagles, which opens the door, albeit slightly, for a top 4 finish if one of the teams sitting above them stumbles. The most likely path would be for Adelaide to lose the showdown, and for the Giants to lose one of their final 2 games, which would make next Friday night's game a battle for a spot in the top 4. Hey, I said slightly. The stakes are higher for Hawthorn, though, and indeed for the rest of the competition. Anonymous sources, and Jay Croucher, indicate that the outcome is more important to where Hawthorn finish, and who plays who and where in week 1 of finals and beyond. A Hawthorn loss would mean they will likely end the season on 17 wins, equal to at least the Swans and Cats if their final 2 hitouts materialize as wins as is to be expected. That bumps them down to 3rd at best, given Hawthorn's percentage is substantially below these 2. Should Adelaide win out, 4th place would be theirs with 17 wins, and a 5th or 6th placed finish would materialize if Hawthorn were to somehow lose to Collingwood in round 23. Win tonight, and first spot is likely theirs subject to a laydown against the Pies. Jay's take is, as always, prescient. The rest of the competition will await the outcome of this game with bated breath. Both of West Coast and Hawthorn have played some of their worst football against each other in recent times. This will be the 5th times the Eagles and Hawks have faced off in just over 12 months, with the Hawks holding sway 3-1 including a game which may have happened on the first Saturday of October 2015 but also might not have, depending on who you ask. Their round 2 meeting this season also may or may not have happened, depending on who you ask. That game was an utter catastrophe for West Coast, losing in the manner they did, where they did, to who they did, reinforced every single stereotype that has come to characterize the team under Adam Simpson. Roaring recommendations. 5 things I hate about you, Collingwood. Highlights: Cats rally to defeat Tigers. AFL Power Rankings, Round 21. Hawthorn might as well have been playing ghosts in the first quarter, at least you have to dodge witches' hats. The Hawks didn't have to flex their muscles, they just had to kick the ball and they were scoring. Plenty has changed since that game, of course. The Hawks have become this season's they just know how to win the close ones team, while the Eagles have argued with themselves as to whether they are good or not. On current form, the match should be incredibly close, home field advantage be damned. The Hawks are coming in unchanged, which will surely mean a late change is coming. The 2 teams match up well on paper, with the Eagles playing an extra forward when compared to the number of defenders Hawthorn expect to play. West Coast have lost Tom Barras, replacing him with the mid-sized Jackson Nelson. Lewis Jetty gets a run for the 3rd time this year after an omission, and he will want to put in some work to be a chance to play in September. Last year the Eagles did their best to impersonate the Hawks' total team football, with their effective zone defense as a point of difference. This year it hasn't quite come together the same way. As we discussed a few weeks ago, many Eagles had career best seasons in 2015. Fortunately for West Coast, their 5 most important players have improved. Luke Shuey is undoubtedly in career best form, Josh Kennedy will win the Coleman Medal in a canter, Matt Prydes has lifted his rating once again, Jeremy McGovern might be the second best key defender in the competition, and Naitanui, well. The main question surrounding this game then is whether the Hawthorn middle class, which is undisputedly playing better, more consistent football than West Coast's middle class, is enough to overwhelm West Coast's aces. A secondary one is to what extent the Eagles' defense can cope with Hawthorn's fleet-of-foot forward line group. Under normal circumstances, the Eagles would have likely bought key defender Eric McKenzie back after a productive stint in the Waffle. Instead, they've retained the two-key lineup of McGovern and Will Schofield, with three medium defenders in Brad Shepard, Sam Butler, and Nelson. McGovern looms as critical, with a largely inexperienced, excluding Jack Gunston, key forward lineup. McGovern will need to be aggressive all night to stop Hawthorn's flexible set. Nick Naitanui and Scott Lysett should have Hawk duo Ben McAvoy and Jonathan Segler covered, but as we know, the Hawks don't need to win at the clinches to win on the scoreboard. The midfield battle otherwise is a wash from my point of view, which really puts the onus on who will be most effective moving the ball around in space. On this measure you can rarely deny the Hawks. It looms large, the next chapter in what was supposed to be an orderly handover of power, from the crafty veteran to the young upstart. Hawthorn are Malibu Stacy, West Coast are Malibu Stacy with a hat. Shout out in the comments if you get that reference. Or at least we thought. The press have been harsh on the Eagles in 2016, and tonight the circumstances are ripe for them to silence a few critics. But I cannot deny Hawthorn. The Hawks will eke over the line in this one, and I think it's all the preconditions for an excellent game exist. Is it too much to ask for it to be decided by a goal or less? I don't think so. After all,